in the beginning, I was working with the guys who were doing a nail salon one day and a rando office building that's half vacant owner user, and then a piece of land over here, and didn't know anything about any of them.
Right.
And just trying to figure it out. If you walk in there and that's what you see going on with your team or the people you're going to work with, I would go with just a thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and go on to the next one.
Welcome to Beyond the Blueprint, powered by Contractors, Closers, and Connections, Orlando. Join me for in-depth interviews with some of the top commercial real estate and development executives in the industry. We uncover their success stories, their strategies, and their lessons learned along the way. Gain valuable insight whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. Beyond the Blueprint, welcome back. We are sitting down with Joe LaFleur at 100units.com. Quick news, quick update. Joe and his firm have been named, 13 out of the top 20 Orlando commercial brokerages. So, Joe, thanks for joining us, man.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Yeah. They took the 12th floor out. We got 13. Lucky 13.
13. Hey, you're on the list. That's none the better. So, first off, I want to give you a little gift from one of our sponsors. So, Bryce Knuth with Insurance Office of America has been kind enough to give us a little gift to all of our guests. So, Joe, we'll kind of jump into it. Let's go through your experience and what it's like. I know you originally went to school for engineering, didn't you?
Yes, I have a degree in electrical engineering from the University of Houston. Yes,
yeah.
They were kind enough to bestow that honor upon me.
So let's go as far back as you want. Like, how did you get into commercial real estate? Where did you come from? How did you get to where you are today? We'll go back and take it from here.
Well, we ended up in Orlando from Houston, Texas in 2003 because Elaine my wife wanted to work at Disney.
Okay.
And so she was trying to get a job at Disney, got a job at Disney. So we moved here. And now we're basically Floridians. I mean, it's 20 years in.
Yeah. So you're from Houston originally?
Yes. Yeah. Both of us are from Houston, Texas.
Okay. And so you went to school there. Why did you choose engineering?
That's an interesting question. My father gave me some wise advice. And he said that one of the things he had wished he had done when he was going to school is look up the average starting salary for each degree before he picked his major. And so he said, hey, go, because it's public, like you can go, like the schools readily, they're happy to provide it all to you.
Right.
Most people never look at, they just say a degree. Well, there's a vast difference in starting salaries between degrees.
Sure.
They're not all a degree.
Right.
So I went and picked them, and that was what
was on
looked
the top
at me.
list.
And so I started, actually, University has an excellent chemical engineering program, being in the oil and gas industry, and there's a lot of petrochemical there. So I went in there, took my first chemistry class, decided civil was looking real good.
It wasn't so much a chemist.
It wasn't so much, not so much. I was like dirt. I just couldn't get excited about it. So E was next.
Yeah, E was next. There you go.
It was a very extensive process.
Right. And so then what happened? So you moved from Texas, got a degree in electrical engineering.
Mm-hmm.
You moved from Texas and you started your real estate journey, or did you?
No, I didn't actually. I'm a late to the game. Elaine went to work for Disney, so we moved here. I worked actually in engineering even here in Florida for a little while. In the major industries, I was looking to kind of start my own business and push out on my own. And the two major industries that I could get involved in without massive amounts of travel were water and wastewater and in theme parks.
Okay.
And both of them looked like there was going to be a large barrier to entry. So I went and looked at a couple of other businesses that I could start and ran into somebody who was doing commercial real estate. That was one of the ones that popped up and like, hey, this is something that interested me.
And so
I got into commercial real estate. I did start in a resi-mercial, because you're like trying to figure out what you're doing. Yeah. I learned words of wisdom. In the beginning of anything, you don't know what you don't know. The first bit of wisdom you can get is when you realize you're ignorant.
Yeah.
So I hadn't got to that point yet. I was
Yeah.
I thought I knew everything, was super smart. And of course I could just figure this out. Spent longer than I should playing around in resi-mercial world. And then finally got serious, went to a national firm They had a nice plan, ran through brokerage, how to do brokerage, exactly how to reach out to clients, how to run a database, was there for 6 years, and then 2015 started 100 units and been doing that ever since.
So what was one of those things that you didn't know that you thought you knew going into the commercial side of things? Aside from everything, right?
That list is a long one.
Yeah.
I mean, for the next 17 hours
Yeah.
listing all the things I didn't know. I will give one of the things that I walked away with, I think is useful, especially if you're getting started. In the beginning, you don't know what you don't know.
Sure.
So first of all, acknowledging ignorance. And second, placing not where you are, not what kind of money you're going to make or you think you're going to make or where it is, how easy it is, but really diving into the people you're going to be around, because they're going to have an oversized impact on your education.
Sure.
Because you're basically starting an educational process. People say, oh, it's a new career, it's a new business, blah, blah, blah. Basically, you're jumping on an educational journey.
Sure.
And there are people, like you got lucky to go with Millennium Partners, awesome group, people who are giving and want to help you succeed. The people that you pick to go down that, especially in the beginning, the fundamentals make such a big difference and can either waste a bunch of your time and you won't realize it because you're not smart enough to know the difference, or they can just leapfrog you forward.
Yeah. Well, in my experience, I mean, as you mentioned, I mean, I've been very blessed to have those people in my life. How did early on you pick those people or decipher who was going to be a waste of time?
In the very beginning, I started in the world with the thought only of proximity.
Okay.
And it was like, oh, I know these people. Oh yeah, come on. Of course you're going to do great. This is going to be little knowing that the easy come in, like they were hiring anybody who had a pulse because they're not going to pay you anything. Duh.
Yeah.
Like if you want to come work for free, come on in.
Right.
There's a phone.
Yeah.
Good luck. Oh, you want a prospect list? No problem. We got the yellow pages in the back. Here you go.
Dial in for dollars.
For people who don't know what the yellow pages are, if you're brand new, that was the old school Google.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So it was proximity, and then you kind of started to decipher who was actually worth staying close to.
It took me, well, in the beginning, because I was so ignorant and didn't know anything, everybody knew more than me.
Sure.
So that's a huge leg up. It wasn't for several months in that I wasted and then found out, oh, this is not quite, these people don't know that much more than me.
Right. It was like a couple months. And
It was a couple months and you're like, wait a second, this is just not, this is not working.
They're just high level recruiters at that point.
Yeah. So I got very lucky that I had run into a number of people who'd been in the industry a long time and they were very kind. And that's something I definitely want to pass on in the future. Is when you're in the beginning of your career, people are nicer to you than you deserve.
Sure.
And will help you out more than what you deserve.
Right.
And there was plenty of people who spent time lunch or would even meet with me when I was brand new and just asking them totally stupid questions. And the advice came back the same, one after another. Like, oh, if you want to do this, you need to go with a national firm. You literally have no idea what you're doing.
Why do you think they chose to pour into you?
I have a feeling the vast majority of them, that was a practice because other people had done that to them, years in the past. It's one of the things I do.
Right.
Like people were kind enough to help me out years ago. So I look on it as a giving back, like a debt I owe to people who've helped me in the past.
Sure. And so, in commercial brokerage, it's very entrepreneurial, eat what you kill. Like you said, firms will recruit you. You just, here's a phone book and go look on Craigslist, look on LoopNet, try to figure out what you can figure out. So how, in the early stages of career, because you're coming from engineering to real estate, which is a totally different spectrum. And in a way, engineering is not so much entrepreneurial, right? It's A to B, B to C, C to D. How did you make that transition? Were you always entrepreneurial?
I always had that kind of bent in my personality.
Sure. And so how did you make that transition? Was it just a flip? Yeah, roughly.
Yeah. Well, I picked an awesome time to do it. So 2008, I got into the business in 2009. So I spent the first I didn't make any money till 2011.
Yeah.
I mean,
it
I
takes a little
closed
while
one
to
or
get
two
ramped up.
rando deals here and there. And yeah, fortunately, Elaine supported us and supported me and told me to keep going, that it would turn out good. And she was right.
Right. It definitely takes a while. I know my experience at, Marcus, I was on a team full of people. We closed a deal and I was like, I can go close a house and make 3 times this much. So building that pipeline is a lot. So how significant has your presence in Orlando been to the community that you've built as 100 units continues to build?
That's interesting. The community, that's an interesting concept. If you talk to owners of our focus target market, which is multifamily deals, 5 to 150 units in Central Florida, and ask them about Joe or 100 units or Johnny, like the vast majority, probably 80% of them will know who we are.
Yeah. And is that because you guys are so specialized in what you
And
do?
that's all we do. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go try and find somebody else who does like that space, there's plenty of people who are very focused on deals that are, 200 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got all the guys at CB, JLL, Cushman, they are focused on that space.
Sure.
They're not playing in the space we're playing in.
Right. And your space is a quasi infill type of space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is all deals that were built. I mean, like, if we get a deal 1980 construction, that's new.
Right.
That is like, whoo, this thing is brand new. Man, it's barely got touched.
Right. So as a broker, I mean, how did you fall into multifamily? Like, why multifamily? Why was that interest of you? And what was your decision process like?
So that was another excellent piece of advice I got from a smart mentor. I was started out selling office buildings in 2008, 2009. And I should say trying to, because I didn't actually sell any of them.
Mm-hmm.
And a smart mentor said, hey, maybe this ain't the best thing for you. Maybe you can sell an apartment building.
Right.
And in 6 months, I had a deal listed. We had things going to contract, actual offers on it, able to get it closed. And I was like, well, I mean, handwriting on the wall here, like, duh, let's go.
Right.
And I've been doing multifamily ever since.
Right. So it wasn't like this analysis. It was like, you got fruit, so you just keep
sometimes, yes.
Keep going. And so obviously
the one thing I did on that is I actually focused on it.
Right.
Once I found something that worked and was repeatable, I just start repeating it.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bryce Knuth of Insurance Office of America. As a contractor or real estate owner in Florida, you've likely experienced the impact of rising insurance premiums year after year. With the challenging insurance marketplace, having a specialist who focuses on your industry is critical now more than ever before. If you'd like a second set of eyes on your current insurance program or don't have a relationship with your current broker, please contact Bryce Knuth at 407-697-6944 via call or text, or email bryce.knuth@ioausa.com. Don't let rising insurance costs catch you off guard. Reach out to Bryce today. So, in today's time, especially in early broker starting in his profession, like, it's very easy just to kind of spread yourself so thin. So what kind of piece of advice, maybe similar to somebody that gave you, like, in focusing on what you do? Because it's hard, you're commission only. It's like, you got a nail salon over here, I'll do that. You got an office building over here, I'll do that. How can a broker, especially a young broker, try to focus but still put food on the table?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. So if you're just getting started, that would be one of the things that I would use as a criteria test before I went and signed up with a team or a brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
As I would have that as, what does this team or this brokerage focus on? And is that where I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
Because they've got some formula that works, has a track record. That's the reason you're talking to them.
Sure.
And if that's the direction you want to go, then that matches up. If you go in there, which is what I did in the beginning, I was working with the guys who were doing a nail salon one day and a rando office building that's half vacant owner user, and then a piece of land over here, and didn't know anything about any of them.
Right.
And we're just trying to figure it out. If you walk in there and that's what you see going on with your team or the people you're going to work with, I would go with just a thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and go on to the next one. If you don't walk in there and immediately you see, oh, this is the process, this is what they do, this is what they do not do, and here's exactly how we execute. If they can't articulate that, I would say thank you very much and go on to the next one, because you're going to have a really hard time.
Right.
You may get lucky and market's going good and you do a couple rando deals and you make some money, but to turn that into an effective business will be incredibly difficult.
Sure. So how important is as a new broker deciding his firm or a firm to go to, is their training, right? So I often get times, luckily, similar to you, Marcus had a very good training program. You knew exactly what you had to do before you can even start making calls. It was very strict. Now, there's often offices and firms that don't have that. It's very boutique style, entrepreneurial. How important is, especially early in your career, choosing a firm that has a strict protocol of training versus not?
I would be more concerned with who you're going to work with.
Okay. Why is that?
Because the training is just that. You could go get on YouTube and find that training.
Sure.
You could just go look it up and say, I want to learn X, and you'll be able to find it. But who you're going to be there with, who's going to hold you accountable, do you get along well with them? Are they the kind of person who wants to give and help you, is going to make a massive difference. Because the training, the actual physical training, or doing the actual physical work, or doing X and Y, that's actually the easiest part.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to need someone there next to you who wants to be a guide,
Sure.
who wants to be a Yoda, who wants to help you grow. And if you're there and all they're really interested in themselves and they just want you for free labor, in the end, it's not going to work out.
Right.
And they could have the best training in the whole universe. But if they're not there to also help you, then you're going to end in an unhappy relationship.
And how...
But on the other hand, I've had plenty of great guys who are super nice.
Right.
But they got no training at all. It's not nice.
Right.
It's who is that mentor, and are they going to be there to effectively guide you? And you don't want the guy who's nice.
Right. And I think
that's a very different thing than someone's going to hold you accountable.
Right. I think the word effectively is important there too, because there are a ton of people that may want to guide, but it's like chasing a lost goose. You have no idea what they're doing. They can't even explain what they do or how they do it. And so you don't learn, right? Like, you want to try to follow them and you want to try to, implement the things that they tell you to do. But to be honest, they don't even know how they do what they do.
A whole lot of people are, especially people who are good, there's plenty of them that are unconsciously competent.
Sure.
So they're good at what they do, but if you ask them to guide you through step by step why they chose to do something, they're like, oh no, you just do that.
Yeah.
It was like, you go to ask, it's one of the things you look in sports, you'll see over and over, the guys who turn into the best coaches, they're not the superstars.
Right.
They're like the middle of the pack players, because those guys had to work over and over for the fun. They didn't have that magic touch that just, you can just unconsciously do things and just naturally somehow know how to do it.
Sure.
It's those guys that are in the middle of the road that know this is the process that we do. This is why we do it, and we do it over and over and over.
Sure. And I think that's to be conscious, when someone's picking a brokerage, to not it's very easy to go and search like the top broker, right? And it's like, I want to work under him. And it's like, well, that guy is the top, but maybe he works at JLL or CB or these big firms and he's crushing it, but he's not a good guy to work underneath. Maybe you can work under for like the name, right? To get some clout, to try to build your name and your brand. But the reality is you're probably not going to learn a lot.
You'll find out. You're going to learn.
Sure.
It could be a very expensive education.
Sure.
AKA you spent 2 years and walked out with slightly more education than what you came in with.
Right. So let's talk about the entrepreneurial journey, right? So, working at a brokerage, I mean, that's immediate. You had entrepreneurial already in your entrepreneurship already in your mindset. You're going into a brokerage. You're trying to figure out. I think part of an entrepreneur is you're just getting in the grit of things, trying to figure it out. What does that transition look like from being a broker at a firm to starting 100 units?
Oh, that's an interesting one. That was a stressful time. Took a lot of thought to go because you're going out with no flag.
Sure.
Like at first you have a flag, the next thing you're going out with basically just your name and your brand, as opposed to you got a big national firm and their flag out in front of you, and
so let's start with why you made that decision.
That's a good question. I felt like it would be better in the long run to be able to service clients in a much more direct way, because you got some baggage that comes with national firms also.
Sure.
You have to answer to a lot of people that aren't there. They have their own interests in mind, and those may or may not align with your clients. So you end up in some interesting situations. Whereas if you're on your own, you get to work directly with people you want to work with. You don't have to work with people you don't want to work with.
Right.
You also have 1,000 bosses, because it's also now you're the one that has to run payroll every Friday.
Right.
So people look to you to feed their families, and they expect you to perform, and that's you taking that responsibility on.
So what about that journey made you want to take that responsibility?
I just thought that would be a better opportunity for us. I mean, in the end, like that was it to grow. I mean, it was one of those situations where you're like looking at it, how much, because in the beginning you're a partner, right, with a firm. So you have some split X. You have to look at like what's everybody bringing to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And in the very beginning, you know nothing. So literally you're bringing basically brute force and ignorance
Sure.
into this thing. And if you're doing your job, okay, things start moving forward. And in the beginning, you have somebody holding you accountable. You have training where you're learning all the time. You're bringing in new knowledge. You're growing in the business. But over time, that curve starts to level out.
Mm-hmm.
So then if you have a brokerage firm that's then bringing people in to the office to directly compete with you, and they're your partner, well, that's not quite as much of a partnership.
Sure.
And then you have clients that you want to work with and have long-term relationships with, and they want to enforce, some questionable agreements with them just so they can make a few extra bucks in the short term.
Right.
It puts you in an awkward situation because I'm looking at it as a long-term business. And they're looking at, they got to make quarterly earnings.
Sure.
Like they got to turn around and tell Wall Street, hey, we made our numbers.
Right. It doesn't matter about
it doesn't make, the fact that you're going to make money in a year, that's cute.
Yeah, that's cute.
This is the 89th day.
Yeah. Right. Well, and then that makes sense.
And that's one of the advantages of running your own thing. I will say you also take on a whole bunch of extra effort that 90% of agents don't anticipate.
Sure.
Because they just look at it. They just look at it as, oh, I was, making phone calls, calling people, doing everything here. I can just go do it on my own. They don't take into the fact that, okay, now you got to you're going to be sending out all the marketing material. You got to approve it all. You got to write all the stuff. You got to send out the reports. You got to make sure everybody gets paid and runs payroll and make sure the staff is there. And what do you do if staff's on vacation? How do you handle these things? How do you, so you pick up a whole bunch of extra weight that goes along with it that you're now responsible for.
Did you know that before you started?
That was on my learning curve. It's not that I didn't know it. I thought I understood it better than what I actually did.
Sure. And it's
one of those situations where if you knew how hard it was going to be, you wouldn't have done it.
That's what I was about to ask.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
But after you did, then you wouldn't go back and change it. And you're like super glad you actually did it.
That's what I was about to ask, is that if you knew what you know now of all the baggage that comes in, would you have done it? And, that question is like, if you would have known, you probably wouldn't have, but now you're glad you didn't know.
Now it's awesome because I'm glad I didn't, because it worked out.
Yeah. So navigating through those difficult challenges. So, 2015 you start. What was kind of like a pivotal moment of 100 units, like starting to see that upward?
Oh, yeah. I remember getting started. It was like 2 weeks in, and I talked to the owner. He's like, "What? You're not with a big firm?" I said, "No, I'm." He goes, "I only work with big firms." Oh yeah, click. I was like, What did I do?
Yeah, right. Did you have a lot of clients like that?
You know how many I had people do that to me?
One.
Take a guess.
One.
That one person.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Why do you think that is, though?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I have no idea. And it, like literally after that, people were just like, "Oh, you're with some other. Okay, good for you. Can you sell my building? Oh, that's nice.
Good
I
for
had
you.
most people saying, "Oh, okay. Can you still sell my building?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, great. Go do that."
Yeah.
And
That-
it just shocked me.
Yeah. That's good, though, that you didn't have that big of a turnover. Hardly any. I mean, it's
Yeah,
one-
it was.
one client. It was shocking.
It's shocking. I mean, honestly, you would think more people would do that, but
Yeah. So what was that bell curve like whenever you started to actually see some traction?
oh, it was within 60 days.
Really?
Well, the market was good. It's 2015.
Right.
Like there was a lot going on. Financing was easy. There was plenty of deals to be had. Like, yeah. And on top of that, you want some, as you're preparing to leave a brokerage, like you're planning ahead because all the deals stay with the brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
So you're thinking about things ahead. You want to have a fire lit under you. You go out on your own and there ain't no safety net. And you got to write a check every Friday to make payroll. And you ain't got nan coming in. You're like people are, oh, what are you going to do on Friday night? I'm going to work. That's what I'm going to be doing.
Gonna make payroll.
Yeah. What are you going to be doing? I'll be working.
So what would
you got a fire lit. It's another amazing thing in that kind of situation is when you're on your own like that, you don't realize the baggage that when you feel like your partners aren't holding up their end, you're holding back some of the effort.
Sure.
And all of a sudden it's like, it's 100% you.
Right.
Like you sink or swim on your own, man, you are just boom, laser. Like you want to draw in like laser focus.
Yeah.
Put it all on the line and then go for it.
There is that subconsciousness of like, well, they're not going to
Yeah,
do
they're not doing there. I'm going to take off early and go play golf.
Yeah, right. Right.
And even though you're not necessarily conscious of it or you're not trying to do that, that's what ends up happening.
Right. When you're on your own, it's like, I have no
when you're on your
option.
own, you're like, this is it.
Yeah, right.
There's exactly one option.
Yeah. So what it was 2015, 60 days, and then, was there ever, I mean, it seems like 100 units is still going strong. Like you guys are still in growth mode. Is that true?
Yes.
Never stop growing.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
That's what's fun.
So how many,
why not?
How many brokers do you have now?
So it's me and Johnny.
Okay.
We're 2 agents and we got two staff members.
Okay. So not a major team.
No.
I mean, for getting on top 13
no, it's
with
not
a
bad.
small team, that's pretty good.
Yeah, we do all right.
Yeah, you do all right. So we're going to wrap up episode 1. We're going to talk about the market in episode 2.
Oh, exciting.
What's to come, what you guys are seeing, how strategically, your business growth model looks like. But I appreciate you sharing your value and your story. And Beyond the Blueprint, stay tuned for episode 2. Catch us next time. We'll see you soon.